Good morning. It's a beautiful morning. It's December 8th, 2023. I'm on my way to work, and I started a new book this week. It's called 2,000 Miles Together, I think it's called, by Ben Crawford. And it's about Ben Crawford and his wife, Cammie, I think is her name, and their 6 kids hike the Appalachian Trail. Their children are from age 17 down to 2 years old. A 2-year-old's a boy named Rainier, after Mountain Rainier. They had done a lot of hiking before. They did the Appalachian Trail. It was kind of their family thing. And they have a non-traditional family. Their kids don't go to public schools. They're homeschooled. And they have a religious background in their family tree, but they don't really ascribe to any religious thinking. They're more, based on what I'm listening to, they put a lot of emphasis in psychology. And anyway, they tell about their adventures and their struggles on the Appalachian Trail, and I'm about halfway through it, I think, maybe a little more. I haven't finished it yet, so I probably shouldn't say too much about it, but so far it's a really interesting read. I think more than the actual adventure on the trail, it's kind of an evaluation of the sociology and psychology of our country today, because they had a lot of issues with social media as they were trying to do a vlog of their trip as they were going, and 9 out of 10 people were supportive, but the 1% that were not supportive were just super toxic, very outspoken and loud, super negative and opinionated, and ended up calling Child Protective Services on them. They got stopped like 18 days into their trip and got interrogated by the government. Now, it turned out okay. The government was on their side, but just the whole dynamic of what they went through and the way people are on social media. There is a small percentage of our country that is extremely loud and very active and very toxic. And they're not the majority, but they cause quite a ruckus for everybody. And this is an interesting read because it talks about how to cope and deal with that, and to learn to tune them out, shut them off, and ignore them. At the same time, there's a danger in all of that. Shutting it off, tuning it out, and ignoring it. He seems to emphasize a lot of psychology, but I think most psychologists would tell you that if you're not listening to somebody who's loud and obnoxious and toxic, you're actually making the problem worse, because they need to be heard, and then they need to be addressed. It needs to be addressed in a way that's functional, that helps them figure it out, so they're not that way. I think that's extremely important. Of course, there's a lot of there's all kinds of dynamics involved here. You know, there's various forms of censorship, and I've experienced quite a bit of that, actually. when I first started. I have started and stopped and started over at least 3 or 4 times on my social media stuff because of that, because it keeps getting censored and deleted, and I don't really understand that. So I don't really think there's anything I'm saying or doing that's really all that controversial. But regardless, I guess maybe the controversial part of it is it's even-keeled and kind of peacemaking and traditional. I don't know. The thought that occurred to me listening to them describe the book, what their adventures were and the struggles they're having, and all the people who are really piling on them and accusing them of being abusive to their children, was, what do these people think our ancestors did? I don't, this is what I have a hard time with. They live in a bubble. Our ancestors went through a lot of these things and worse, much worse. My ancestors did. I know this for a fact. We have our family history. We have quite a bit of it, and all the way back to before this country was even formed. There's a lot of hardship in history, and nothing they put their children through was really all that bad, in my opinion. I experienced sometimes just as bad, if not worse, growing up. So, and I'm grateful for it. And so are the children in this book, by the way. He does interviews. This is an Audible book, and he does interviews with the children, and they have diaries. The children kept journals or whatever when they were going through the hike. So it's a very interesting book. I recommend it. I don't agree with everything he was saying, especially with some of the psychology stuff. Psychology can be good to a point. I've studied psychology. I took it in college. I practiced psychology in really basic common sense forms. But I don't negate religion. I think it falls short. I think it falls very short when it comes to spiritual matters and how spiritual issues impact the mental health. I think psychology, when it shuts off religion, handicaps itself. And not all psychologists do that. A lot of psychologists are religious. I've gone and talked to some of them just because I like to explore things. So yeah, it does, not all psychology does that, but when it does, it's not healthy. It's not helpful. All that aside, that's basically all I was going to say. Is this is kind of a verbal book summary of 2,000 Miles Together by Ben Crawford and his wife and their children. I highly recommend it. I'm thinking about doing the Appalachian Trail. I've thought about it for years, but this past few months I've been doing a lot of research on it and watching a lot of videos of people who've done it, all different ages, for all different kinds of reasons, and I think it's fascinating. When I was a kid, I kind of enjoyed doing that sort of thing. I used to hang out down at the Arkansas River in Tulsa, and I would go fishing and camping with my friends, and a lot of times they didn't want to do it, and I would talk them into doing it, and it was sometimes pretty miserable. We had some good adventures. It's a lot of Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn type stuff, and I always enjoyed that. The problem I have with it, which I've learned from experience, is that I tend to romanticize things, and then when I'm in the thick of it, it's not quite so much fun. And I think hiking trails going camping is a lot like that. I enjoy it, and I wouldn't give up the memories of it, and the hardships are a big part of that enjoyment. And that is one of the things that Ben brings out in the book, is that, and his wife and family, the kids too, for that matter, is that suffering through some of the deprivations of camping and hiking for long distances really resets your dopamine. They don't say it this way, but this is how it works. It resets your dopamine levels in your brain and really makes you appreciate and enjoy life a lot more than if you don't do those things and go through those hardships. And I think that's a really important lesson to learn from all that. I think that's probably one of the most important lessons in their story. That and the social stuff. You have to tune people out. They're going to have different opinions. And when they get really toxic and you can't talk to them, you can't reach them, then it's better just to tune them out. Even though that doesn't necessarily contradict what I said about you need to listen to them and try to talk to them. I try to talk to people, but sometimes they're just so set in their mental state that you just can't influence them. So in those situations, just gotta let it go. So, well, that's all I got for that. I hope you enjoy that very informal chit chat about the book on my way to work. Pray for me, a sinner. God bless. Over and out.